What if disasters were predictable? If relief got to the world's hungry before they needed it? Over 2/3 of Africa's population resides in rural areas, and most are dependent on rain-fed agriculture and pasture. It is these vulnerable, food-insecure communities that are most at risk to extreme weather events like droughts, floods, and cyclones. To assist these communities when a natural disaster occurs, governments work with the international community to provide aid and assistance. It can take weeks to assess the extent of the damage, appeal for and mobilize funds required for the response. Once resources are available, it still takes between 3 and 6 months to scale up an operation, buy what is needed, have it shipped in if it's not available locally, and to distribute emergency resources to those who need them most. And while this is happening, lives can be lost. But more often, survivors lose their livelihoods. Families waiting for assistance resort to selling their plow oxen and tools, pulling kids out of school and leaving their land behind, reversing the development gains achieved since the last crisis, sending these vulnerable communities back to square one. On top of this, in a crisis, governments are forced to reallocate scarce resources to respond to the disaster, disrupting important public services like health and education. In the light of climate change, developing mechanisms that help prevent this escalating impact of extreme weather events remains an urgent priority. That was then, but this is now. The African Risk Capacity, ARC, is an African solution to one of the continent's most pressing challenges. It uses cutting-edge technology and modern financial tools to provide governments with immediate resources when disaster strikes. ARC uses existing satellite feeds that provide real-time information on weather patterns in populated areas across the continent, helping to determine who's at risk, where they are, and how much relief assistance might cost. Assisting communities before they deplete their assets is a lot less expensive than responding to a disaster after it's evolved into crisis. ARC transfers the burden of climate risk away from governments charged with protecting their farmers and pastoralists to international financial markets that can handle that risk much better. By creating an African-owned risk pool like the ARC, we close the gap between event and response and get the money where it needs to go when it's needed. Because disasters do not happen in the same year at the same time in all countries, pooling or sharing risk across the continent could save countries up to 50% in the cost of dedicated emergency contingency funds, making Pan-African solidarity in approaching climate risk financially effective. Droughts, floods and cyclones are not new, and long-term solutions to hunger on the continent are not outside of our grasp. It's time we transition from managing crises to managing our risks more effectively. This is the African Risk Capacity.